Hi everyone, this is entrepreneurship, and we are now on learning unit 6, setting up a business. The previous learning unit was all about the business plan. So now that you're done compiling your business plan, then now you have to set up your business. So this is the very technical and probably the most boring part that you have to do when it comes to your business. However, the successful establishment of this will allow your business to be able to be recognized and compete with other businesses. So, the learning outcomes that we are going to cover include describing the factors that influence the type of business. So when you select your type of business, there are certain factors that kind of force you to go a certain direction. Then we will explain the legal requirements for the various business formats. Remember, we talked about partnerships, ownership, sole proprietor, PTY, LTD. So, what are the legal requirements of each? Please make sure that you know this because I have seen it being asked in either an assignment or an exam. Then we are going to then discuss the implications of the labor legislation on a business. So when you start a business and you're going to employ people according to the law, you have to have contracts in place on what the terms and conditions of your labor contract are going to be. So once you hire somebody, how is it that they are going to be treated and how is it that they should treat you? So we've seen disputes in any kind of relationship. So because this one is for a business and because you've legally registered that business, there needs to be labor laws that are put in place. Then theme 2, if theme 1 was setting up the business, theme 2 is influential factors in the setting up. So learning outcome 4 includes explaining the process of establishing a business. So when you actually establish a business, what is it exactly that you do? And then we're going to describe the factors that influence the location of the business and then describe the setting up factors related to business functions. And we've talked about business functions various times in this book. And yeah, so when it comes to setting up, what what about the business functions is involved? Learning outcome 1, describe the factors that influence the type of business. The factors that influence the type of business include number 1, the nature of the product or your service. The nature of your product and the complexity of its development, manufacture, and marketing will determine the most suitable business form. For example, a business manufacturing security gates requires the involvement of one or two owners, staffing by a few employees, possibly a garage used as a workshop, and a minimum of equipment. So, for this type of business, a sole proprietorship or partnership would be adequate. If, however, you set up a factory to manufacture remote controlled gates and doors for residential and industrial use, you should actually consider a different business format because the higher the turnover, it means the more sophisticated your business structure might be. So, therefore, a private company structure would be more appropriate. I really would say for any formal business, I would say, you know how you calculate the SMME formula. So small S is small, M is micro. Yes. So between micro, small, and medium businesses, I would say for a micro business, you can make it definitely an ownership. What is it? A sole proprietor or a business. Okay, what is it? A partnership. Whereas the more you grow and you start to make money, then convert your business into something more legal, because of the implications. You don't like one of the benefits of registering an actual PTY LTD is the fact that the the banks don't hold you legally responsible for the debt that is incurred by the business. It is actually the business that is held legally obligated to compensate. So then the legal liability of owners, again, a close corporation and private company have specific legal personalities, while the sole proprietor and partnerships do not. Honestly, I don't recommend ever the sole proprietor and the part, because of the fact that um if you're serious about running a business and you're entrepreneurial about it, you want your business to grow. So if you're a sole proprietor, that means, do you not see your business growing? Because there are going to be ramifications, legal ramifications. So legal personality means that the sole proprietor and the members of a partnership are usually personally responsible for the tax and debt obligations and the commitments of the business, whereas shareholders of companies and members of close corporations have limited liability, and that's what the difference is. For commitments of the particular business form, the person can therefore be held responsible to a limited extent. And that's why I prefer the company versus the partnership. So here you get personally responsible. Imagine you start a business, it goes wrong, now you get into debt, and now they want to come back for you. Rather register a business and run a proper business. And then the business form and the effect of taxation. But I guess that's the thing, because once you register a company, then you need to your income tax implications. So, or in fact, so in many cases, the effect of income tax determines the choice of business forms. Tax policy changes frequently. Changes are announced in the annual budget by the Minister of Finance, and then the current tax rate for the companies and closed corporations right now, they say it's about 28%. With regards to taxation, I guess that's one of the things. Man, our tax is high. Tax is high. Imagine if you earn something like 100,000, and this is your personal income tax. If you earn something like 100,000, and that's your cost to company, the government comes and takes what, 40% of your money. 39, that's a lot. So that means you're going to only walk away with 60,000, and what about after deductions? What then? So, your taxes, taxes, it's a pain. So, so there are specific legal requirements also. You must be aware of legal requirements for the various business forms. In the case of a company, a memorandum of incorporation must be registered with the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission, and financial statements must be drawn up and approved annually by a chartered accountant. But again, this is because you are trying to have a business that grows. A business that grows requires for proper accounting to be done on its books. Then explain the legal requirements for various business formats. So the duties and legal requirements that apply to all business forms include the following. Number one, the person operating the business must have full legal capacity. The type of economic activity that will be undertaken must be stated. The number of the business must be accepted, the name of the business must be accepted. And then the registration of patents, trademarks, and designs must be carried out, and product testing must also take place, and licensing must be done. Again, proving to the legitimacy of the business. If you comply legally, people will trust you. So the business must also be registered with the South African Revenue Service, that's SARS, so that they can take your money. The Commissioner of Unemployment Insurance, again, because of those labor laws, the Workmen's Compensation Commissioner, the relevant local authority, the Department of Trade and Industry. The business must comply with the following legislation: the General Industrial and Commercial Legislation, and the Occupational Health and Safety Act. So, yes, there are, a lot of people, yes, you might think to yourself, why not do a sole proprietor? Because the legal requirements, there's a lot that needs to be considered. But again, it's because of the fact that your ambition is to have a business that grows. You cannot be hiring 20, 100, thousands of people and you're not registered. That does not make any sense. And then full legal capacity. Full legal capacity means that the person who runs the business must be solvent. So if you're going to run a business, you need to be solvent. You cannot be insolvent and not have money and be in debt. And it's kind of sad, because actually when you're in debt, that's when you actually need to start a business. But yeah, the law is the law. And then another legal requirement is the type of economic activity. There are different municipal and legal requirements for these different types of businesses. For example, the health requirements for restaurants, bakeries, or anything that supplies food, right? And yeah, versus a person who offers insurance, a bottle store or construction company. So you need to find out what the legal obligations that pertain to your type of business are from your local municipality or licensing authority. Again, because yeah, if you deal with food, for instance, we as customers want to know that we can come to your company or your business and not have our lives, be at stake. And that if they are at stake, we can come back for you. And then the naming of the business, another one. When you name your business, your company names must be approved by the Companies and Intellectual Commission. Uh, yeah, so the CIPC, your name, company name must be registered there. And then if you have patents, trademarks, and designs, the registration of these patents must be performed by the patents attorney, and trademarks must be registered at the trademarks office in Pretoria, same place where the CIPC is. And then testing, products can be tested by the South African Bureau of Standards. If you are producing, say, a a toaster, we need to have your toaster SABS approved, and that the South African Bureau of Standards will be the one that tests it for you. And then licensing, you need to approach the local authority to find out the rules and regulations that govern licensing in your area. And then you must also register your new business with SARS, like we've said. You must pay tax as an employer and the taxpayer, as well as on added value tax. So, yo, guys, it's a lot. So, as an employee, you must pay tax. As a taxpayer, you must pay tax because you pay yourself a salary, and then also you must pay VAT. It's a lot. And then, as an employer, the business must collect tax. As the taxpayer, the business owner must annually pay tax on net annual income, and then value added tax. Yeah, on the products that you sell. And then registration for unemployment insurance, the UIF. Again, an employer is obligated by the Unemployment Insurance Act 30 of 1966 to make contributions to the employment insurance fund. It is a must, so that should anything happen to your business, and then your people can, get this insurance. And then registration with the Workmen's Compensation Commissioner, because should anything happen physically to your employees, yeah, you want to be safeguarded against that. So employees in a particular income group are compensated if a a result of the accident or injury, they can, if through the as a result of the accident or injury, they can no longer earn an income. Yeah, so registration is compulsory in terms of the Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Diseases Act 130 of 1993. Yeah, man. So employers also pay the Workmen's Compensation Commissioner an annual amount calculated according to the total income of the employees. So yeah, it's a lot. And then registration with local authorities. Businesses may have to pay service and turnover levies to local authority. The service levy is a percentage of the amount that is paid in salaries and wages, and the turnover levy is a percentage of the turnover of the business. And then general industrial and commercial legislation. For example, Occupational Health and Safety Act, the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, Consumer Protection Act. These ones, again, necessary for you to know as a business. Again, this sounds cumbersome, but if you have a business that's going to grow, you're going to employ people to know this. So compliance is necessary, and knowledge of these is even more necessary. And then learning outcome 3, discuss the implications of the labor legislation on a business. The labor legislation, most businesses depend on employees. Therefore, when you start your own business, knowing about and adhering to labor legislation is important. And I've been saying that in throughout this whole recording. Labor legislation balances the powers of employers and employees and is intended to protect both parties in the employment relationship. So, number one, it is done through employment contracts. The employer employee relationship comprises certain rights and obligations that must be mutually agreed to. And the contract defines whether the employment is a fixed or an indefinite period. And there are three forms of contract: written contracts, verbal contracts, and tacit contracts. You want a written contract. And then the Labor Relations Act, it aims to establish co-determination in the workplace. The aim is to transform the relationship between the management and labor from adversarial to cooperative, from fragmented dealings with one another to interaction, and from distributive to a more integrative approach. So, the primary objectives of the Act are to regulate fundamental rights of all South Africans, to promote collective bargaining and collective agreements. You'll see with your SACTUs and all that is promote collective bargaining, promote participation of workers in the workplace, and promote the resolution of disputes. Yeah, and then the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. It provides for the right to reasonable and fair minimum conditions. Again, because employers can abuse employees. And then the Employment Equity Act. The aim of the Employment Equity Act is to eliminate unfair discrimination and providing equal opportunities, fair treatment, and employment, in employment and affirmative action. So yeah, hey, know your rights. Know your rights if you're gonna be, especially an employee. And then Skills Development Act. I love this one because it puts an obligation on employers to train and develop employees. So the aim of the Skills Development Act of 97 of 1998, Act 97 of 1998, is to ensure that the education, training, and development needs of employees are met. So yeah, man, the employers have to pay a skills development levy of 1%. So yeah, hey guys, it's necessary because as much as employers naturally by their size and power, they can abuse. So these low labor laws, they really put some power in the employee's hands, and yeah, also try to derive some sort of benefit. And then Black economic empowerment, we know that one. It's all about inclusivity of Black people in the workplace. And then explain the process of establishing a business. So if you're a sole proprietor in a partnership, a few legal requirements govern establishing these types of businesses. And a partnership is formed by a written oral agreement, whereas with an owner, sole proprietor, you own the business, you don't even need to talk to yourself. And then when you set up a company, number one, you must reserve the name. A memorandum of association and statutes article must be drawn up. And then the following documents must and information must also be submitted to the CIPC for registration of the company. Details of your name, two copies of those memorandum of association and statutes, registered office address, your audited annual financial statements, annual duty registration fee, and the proof that the company has been registered. And then again, there's no more close corporation, so no need to discuss that. And then describe the factors that influence the location of your business. Number one, the market, the people that you are selling to, they will dictate where your business will be. But then also more importantly is access to raw materials, because what if your raw materials and your customers are in two different places? So yeah, it depends on which one is more important. If it's more important that you be closer to your customers, then your raw materials can take the heat for your business. But if it's more important that you be close to your raw materials, because some businesses cannot operate if they're not close to their materials. Yeah. And then human resources or labor, ensure that you'll be able to employ suitable staff, right? Costs as well. Also determine where your location is. I mean, for a clothing company or like a boutique or something, everybody would want to be at a mall. But can you attract that amount of traffic? And then the climate also. And then regional incentive programs, services, availability of services such as public transport, water, etc. Personal and social consideration. And I guess for the entrepreneur, sometimes the entrepreneur is just like, you know what? I want a business that's going to be set up at home so that I can take care of my kids. Makes sense for you. And then the location will have a huge influence on the competitiveness. Again, it is necessary for you to have a thorough market research before signing any rental agreements, just because those considerations kind of tell you what you should do rather than the other way around. And then lastly, describe the setting up factors related to business functions. So marketing would be responsible for all the activities related to supplying the consumer with the product and service. Public relations, that's where you promote the business. Information and record keeping would involve control of information systems to ensure that information is obtained, processes, and made available to the management. And then finance would include budgeting and effective application and use of funds, especially in the beginning. Human resources, the use of employees, as well as their recruitment, development, and retention and morale. And then purchasing, responsible for the timely purchasing of goods and services at the right place. Operations, responsible for transforming inputs such as raw materials, labor, and finance into outputs, the product or service that the business offers. And then general management primarily consists of the activities of planning, organizing, leading, and control. So please refer to page 205 of your textbook. And that's it. In summary, we just talked about setting up your business. Thank you.